Hello and welcome to the Bledisloe Cup review show. We'll also review all the Mitre Cup stuff and Farah Cup stuff. And you know what? I've got slave driver Ashwin on the show. You know what? He's saying, Paul, go, go, go. It's showtime. Hurry up, Paul. Oh, dearie me. You're like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. 5. Calm it down, boy. Calm it down. Jeez, we're not Sky. We don't have a guy. I don't know if you guys remember watching Bill and Ted. So they have the guy who goes, 5. Go live. Anyway, all of that kind of wonderful stuff. For those of you on the podcast, now you'll have missed that entire visual gag entirely. Not that it was that funny, as you can tell, because Stephen Harris and Ashwin, neither of whom are laughing at this stage. Don't worry, I'll go around and whip them later for not getting on with the with the main host, founder, and all-round top guy of New Zealand Sports Radio. How you doing, boys? Hey, Steve, how's your weekend been?
You go first, Ashwin.
What do you mean he goes first? I asked you specifically. I didn't. I went past him and asked you.
Oh, I thought we were doing the alphabetical thing, but never mind. We're
going, if Ashwin's going to snore, he can beep down the back of the queue and come last.
No, weekend's been pretty good, but square eyes watching so much footy, so no, all good.
Cool, and Ashwin, don't really care. Really, but
the builder.
Tell the audience because I'm sure they do.
I'm Bob the Builder. I've been making little bits and pieces for the business.
So,
and trying to watch rugby.
Yeah, I'll allow you. You've got 10 seconds. Go quick. Plug your company.
Oh, plug company. Yeah, if you need to have safety looked at in your workspace with electrical testing and tagging and fire safety, DM me now.
Done. So there we go, folks. If you don't want to electrocute yourself, have a chat with Ashwin. Particularly if you're in New Zealand. If you're over in Australia and want to fly him out there, I'm sure he'll be happy to do that as well. I'm sure he'd love to do a 14-day isolation when he comes back. Anyway, keeping you all safe. You know what, guys? I think we'll kick off with the Bledisloe Cup, right? And then we'll get through all the Mitre Cup stuff and the Farah Cup stuff after that. Wow, have you caught your breath yet? Because boy, oh boy, that was a cracker, wasn't it?
It was.
One of those classic games you didn't want to end, did it? It's like, and it keep going and going.
You didn't want it to end. Oh, dear me. So you didn't want a result. You just wanted to keep on playing, guys. Look, at the end of the day, let's be honest, those guys were out on their feet, weren't they? And the kick and kicking the ball out was the right option. So I don't think we're going to be blaming James O'Connor for what he did at that point.
Not from your in goal area. maybe if he was on the 22, then you sort of say, "Hello, you have a go. What you doing?" But it's like, when you're inside your in goal area, there's no support around you. You're going to kick the ball into touch and end the game.
Yep, absolutely. But I guess we should probably talk about the first half first. All this kind of chronological kind of stuff. All Blacks had the wind at their backs, but the Aussies and the Wallabies managed to sort of dominate territory and possession. Sort of missed opportunity in that first half by the All Blacks not actually playing the conditions very well, maybe.
Yeah, you did right, Paul. I think the thing about the Wallabies, they just held on to the ball for really long periods, and there was a lot of variety in their attack. They almost used Taniela Tupou like a first receiver throughout the game, and he always got them over the advantage line. But what really surprised me is the fact that they were getting over the advantage line, but they were a little bit negated by the fact that the Wallaby back line was a little deep. But I thought there was some great work going on behind the scrum, especially from Nick White. When you give him, quick ball and you're in behind a team, he can just then do his magic. He's really got the opportunity to run or pass or look at the options that are available.
And Ashwin, what do you think of that Nocturnal Rights sort of comment there, that this was the old Hansen game plan from the All Blacks?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's just like I think just I'll come back to what Steve said as well, but it's just like we haven't evolved our game plan, and what are we expecting that teams aren't going to understand the game plan that we've been playing for now 6, 7, 8 years and not be able to read it? It's like that's basically, it's just nothing was working. It was too slow. And coming back to what Steve was saying, I sort of think maybe it was the conditions that sort of like just hampered the Australians with with Tupou getting over the advantage line, and because he had to be a bit more assured with picking up the ball with it being wet, that would obviously slow them down and allows the defence to get set a bit.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. We started off with drizzle in the kind of first half, and it got kind of heavier as the evening went on. Jordan's saying that perhaps we shouldn't allow Wellington to have any more Test matches because they just have bad weather, and also their fans don't turn up either. The first time that we've had an All Blacks Test in New Zealand that's not sold out in 6-7 years, I think it is now.
Look, I think we've, obviously digressing here from the game itself, but we've had some dodgy calls from officialdom down in Wellington over the last few years, where we've seen large parts of the stadium in a sold-out game that are actually empty, and it's really cold, so people were staying inside or under the cover and watching it from there. And it's just like, I don't know about that. I'm sort of thinking there's some, playing around with numbers happening. And this time around, it got shown up big time, especially when you haven't got out-of-towners coming in. I don't know why out-of-towners didn't come in. I mean, we're in level 1, so you can get around the country. There's no reason, but maybe there's other reasons. But, I mean, yeah, obviously there's other reasons. But, yeah, I think they got found out now. It's just like Wellington struggles to sell out Test matches.
Oh, I'll tell you what, we only really came out of lockdown, when was it? Last Wednesday, last Thursday here?
Only Auckland, Steve. Only Auckland.
Yeah.
Right?
Auckland. But I think you get a lot of, when you do have a test in Wellington, I think you get a lot of people that plan or do some planning to travel down there. And I think that's probably what they missed out on the people that had the opportunity to travel there. But, suffice to say, to me, it's a moot point, because it only looked like it might have been about 5,000 short of a sellout. It was still a pretty good vocal crowd. Well, they found their voices in that. Eight minutes of injury time. That's about the only time they found their voices. But listen, in the main, it was an okay crowd in my book.
But coming back to the game. Oh, sorry, you want to go, Paul?
I want to go here. Voices and crowds. Okay, folks, if you're watching on TV, especially if you're watching overseas, okay, and you hear the crowd going All Blacks and chanting that, the only reason they're doing that is because they're putting the words all and then blacks up on the big screen to tell the people to make noise. Seriously, New Zealand crowds, you need to learn how to make how to chant, how to make some noise, maybe sing a song. Being led by the TV screen is not a very or the big screen in the ground.
Was it?
Yeah, not so cool.
That doesn't happen at Eden Park.
Yes, it does.
I've seen it all the time.
Well, then you're just running and following everybody else. I've seen them put all and then blacks up on the big screen, and the crowd makes noise.
It's one of those things that, because they've just been so successful throughout history of the All Blacks, and the crowd, I think that's just the way they are over here, because the All Blacks have got such a great winning record where your Wales, you need all the support you can get. You need all those. You need all those voices. And in Ireland, that's just the way they are. Crowd. I think crowd is everything to those teams over there. And I think you're seeing a bit of it through the English or the Gallagher Premiership, just with no crowds there. It just takes, I don't know, at those particular small grounds where you're right on top of the action, I think it just takes a lot away from the support for the home teams, especially.
So there we go. As we've shared all our European viewers, as Stephen insults them all, there we
This Paul's mark.
So in that first half, particularly, I think even though the Aussies were behind, and they should have been behind even further, apart from Rico dropping the ball. I think actually the Aussies played a really good first half because they did have the wind. They were playing into the wind, and that wind I think was worth 10 to 14 points in that half to me. And I think the All Blacks should have been further ahead. Let's get into it though, guys. Rico Iwani showboating. I've seen tweets going, he should be pulled off at that point and he should be dropped for the next game because of it. Your thoughts on Rico and dropping the ball?
I'd like to see it again. Actually, tell you the truth, seeing it live, Look, first of all, I'll just go on the showboating thing. I don't like players showboating. I was like, get over the try line, get the ball down is absolutely, that's it. What you don't need to do all the other stuff, the fancy dives and everything, unless it's required to actually score the try. In saying that, I think there's a lot. Twitter's going off. I mean, Twitter always goes off, but in terms of just absolutely hoeing into Rieko Ioane. But I want to say, and I'm probably the only one in the world that sees this, but that ball didn't lose contact with his hand. And if it doesn't lose contact with his hand and he forces it, it only takes one finger for pressure on the ball on the ground. So it has to have separation. So I didn't see separation. I want to go see it again. I want to see it again. But at the times, the replays that I've seen, I haven't seen separation.
Now, whether the actual laws of the games have or have not changed, the interpretations have. Let's be honest now, because we even hear the TMO going, he didn't have control of the ball. Now, I understand that the law book doesn't say control in it, but the interpretations clearly have changed now.
What's control? Control? Because quite often players will roll the ball through the hands and it'll end up on their fingertips as they place the ball down.
I understand, but that's that.
There you go. Now you're making a subjective call. Now you're making a subjective call on what you believe to be control versus what another person believes to be control. Simple as that. Mm-hmm. And that's what we've got to do, is take subjectiveness out and say, here's the law. And the fact is that until the ball has left the hand, it has not been knocked on. It has not been lost forward. If there's separation, that's when you've lost it.
And it was if he had contact, it was the most minimal contact he had at that point. I mean, it really was down to. It really was down. It really was and the way it bounced up, as the commentator said, it's like, it's bounced up in a way that shows that he hasn't put that down.
Sure.
And that's a part of it.
Farah did it in the Auckland Taranaki game. The ball bounced up, but he slammed the ball down. Ball bounces up. Not an indication that it's been lost forward.
Rieko did not slam that down, though. Let's be honest here.
No, it doesn't matter. The point is that if it hasn't left his grip, if it hasn't left contact with his hand, he hasn't lost the ball.
So your brother's with you on that one. Everyone else in the in the live
look, as I said, I'm alone on that. But as I said, I want to go see that replay again. If it has not left contact, he hasn't lost the ball. Simple as that. And we've seen TMOs with video replays over the weekend, and we'll come to that in Mitre 10, getting calls wrong, even though they've got the replay in front of them and watching it multiple times. So
Paul, I think regardless of whether he knocked it on or not, all the semantics were going round and round circles. You've got to say, as a first up test at centre, it was a fail. I mean, as I just saw one of the comments just come up, he had a misread in a defensive situation, which we'll probably get to once we hit the second half. He probably should have been picked up as he was tracking down that far touchline as well. Although I'm saying that, you give a referee a rap and the next day he misses a foot on the touchline sort of thing. But on saying that, I looked at that picture as well, or a still shot, and Angus Gardner's looking right behind him. So I wonder if it's a case of it looks in the frame that his foot's on the touch line, but maybe just the outside of his foot is not quite touching the line. That's the only thing I could think of in that respect. But it looked really dodgy. But just in terms of Rieko, technique's an issue. This is something we've all been waiting to happen, as you pointed out during the match, Paul. And
I think
he's got to go away and work on it. But what I also noticed when the ball was passed to him, his first instinct is to try and run out a gap on the outside. Now, a good centre will be looking to put somebody away on the outside and then back up that particular support player. I just really think the All Blacks selectors made a mistake starting Goodhue and Ioane as a combination. I would have went for the two experienced heads, and if the game was under control, bring Rieko Ioane with 20 minutes to go. But in my opinion, his stocks have gone down.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that style of putting it down is something we've seen him do. And I think it might come from his sevens days. I think it's the sevens thing that we've seen quite a few sevens players do. Use two hands, folks. You've got two hands. Put two hands, put it down, or you can dive and have it clasped to your chest so it doesn't. Either way, either way, it shouldn't have made that mistake. He shouldn't have left it up to the. He shouldn't have left it up to the. There shouldn't be any chance in it. It's all. He should have. He should have put it down properly.
That's all good though, because it makes a boring show when we always agree with each other, eh?
I was 50-50 either way as to whether, is that, does he still have, but as soon as they mention, the fact that, as soon as I heard the TMO talking about control, it's like, okay, yeah, I can see where this one's going. It's not written in the law book, but it's something that clearly has been a guidance or an interpretation that's gone around all the referees.
Just in terms of, I think we should focus on Australia and the performance they put up. But in saying that, because we've gone to, we've talked about Goodhue. When ALB came on, he went to centre instead of second five. What are your thoughts on that, Steve? I mean, because my mind, ALB 12, Goodhue's at 13.
Random for mine. When this team came out, we obviously spoke last week about what night was it? Was it last Sunday or last Monday? We spoke about the selection of this All Black team, and I've got to admit, I would have personally had those two midfielders in their rightful position: Anton Leonard-Brown at second five, Jack Goodhue at centre. And listen, there's nothing wrong with playing a youngster. The Australians had a 20-year-old blindside flanker in Harry Wilson, who we know is an outstanding footballer. We've had some bites, some little bite-sized efforts that we've seen in Super Rugby with Harry Wilson, and I thought he was very good today. And we know that Caleb Clark has stood up against some of the best outside backs in Super Rugby, and we know his power as well. He does offer something when he's on the field, and that something he offers is just power and a little bit of pace as well. I believe he should have started on one of those wings.
Yep, and yes, yeah, I back that up, and we saw that impact when he came on as well.
For my mind, the thing is that the All Blacks have got 3 13s in that squad and no 12s. Anton Brown, Goodhue, Rico, none of them particularly like playing 12. They're all 13s, for my mind, and that I think is the problem at the moment. Previously, there used to be lots of 12s and no 13s, and then this crowd's come along, and now it's the other way around. One of them, I think, has got to decide that that's the position they want to have. Otherwise, you want to go Lam Happy. But obviously, he's injured at the moment, so you can't do that.
Tell you what, Paul, I would suggest, I think they know that, and that's why he was rushed into train with the All Blacks as soon as possible, because I still believe if he's fit enough to get on the field, he may still feature somewhere, not obviously sooner, but maybe later on down the track.
Yep. And you said, we want to have a talk about the Australians then. Talking about debutants and young guys coming in, Felipe Dungunu. He had a cracking game in that, particularly that first half. Really caused Bridge some issues. Caused the All Blacks some issues whenever he was getting the ball. The Wallabies also were doing a good job getting him that little bit of space out wide so he could use his pace and his elusivity. Elusivity? Is that a word? I like it.
You just created it. That's right. It's a fluid language.
Is the word you were looking for, but you did right, Paul. And that's why we saw Harry Wilson on a couple of occasions just ranging a little bit wide, a la Kieran Reid probably about 5 years ago, and just getting the nice little offloads away to Dalguni, getting so he can get outside his man, and he's got good footwork as well, and he's strong. So the Australians did that very well. So that was obviously something that Dave Rennie identified in the All Blacks defensive line.
Just as a whole team, though, I felt they just sorry. Yeah, sorry.
I thought they were going to do it on the opposite side against Geordie Barrett, but they didn't. They did it against the experienced winger, the more experienced side against Bridge. I thought it would have been Corabetti against Geordie Barrett. Should have been where the Wallabies could do it, but for some reason it was on the other side.
I think they thought to be fair, I think Geordie Barrett's quite a good defender. He's a big guy, so he's able to, as long as he can get up on the person, he can shut them down. Obviously, if somebody's got footwork, then you can, and you got a bit of space, you might be able to have a go at Geordie. But reality is that you've got to get that space. Whereas on the other side, yeah, George Britt's good defender. He wouldn't be there if he wasn't. But probably a better chance at sort of getting that 1, 2, 3 meters, even in a tackle scenario where you can make forward gain and get your team on the front foot. But I think that, at the end of the day, what we saw there, attacking wise, from the Wallabies, and we saw it in their defence as well, they just had more energy and they were just more up for it. They were just there. They were into everything, and you just didn't see that energy from the All Blacks.
Yeah, and that's one of the tweets I put out during the game was that whatever else you say about Dave Rennie, and I'm not his biggest fan, to be honest, but clearly he has got that team playing for him, right? They were going for they were hassling around the ruck, they were going for those 50-50 balls, they're working back in defence. He's got the work rate and the hustle was there from the Wallabies today, definitely, and he's managed to get that. And if you've got your team doing that, you're always on to you're always in with a good chance of the result.
Listen, Paul, I know probably from your piece, your concern with Dave Rennie is obviously more in and around an incident that happened off the field than on the field. But boy, you've got to respect the guy who. What you got to remember, if you think back to what was the first year that the Chiefs won, 2012, he picked up a Chiefs team that ironically was in an absolute left in a mess by who coaches the other side, and he also had a very underperforming Waikato side at the time, and he picked a whole lot of players from all over the shop, including one Brodie Retallick, and he moulded them into a championship winning team within 1 year. So the first thing that says to me that A, he's a good selector, and B, he can come up with a game plan for a team in a short period of time. And that's why I've got total respect for him. But it goes even further back to his days at Manawatu, when he was the Manawatu coach pre-Super Rugby. They would play rugby that was way above their station with basically a limited talent in the side. But some of the backline plays they were using was very, very innovative. And that's what I see in Dave Rennie. Sure, that administration thing was not a good look, but this is a very innovative coach we're talking about here. And I personally think he's actually streets ahead of Foster as a coach. And I believe Foster's it annoys the heck out of me that I think he's just ridden the shirt tails of Steve Hansen over the years. And to my way of thinking, he's in a very real situation of maybe losing the Bledisloe Cup. I know they should bounce back against Eden Park, but I think with a lot of these young Australians, a lot of them have won age group rugby against New Zealand. And I think some of them don't know how to lose against a New Zealand side. There'll be no fear after today.
We also got to remember
on the Chiefs thing is that he also had Wayne Smith as assistant coach for those 2 years that he won. So that's my counter argument there.
Yeah, but his skill as a coach was there long before Wayne Smith. We all say that, but the buck stops with a head coach, not an assistant coach.
And he brought he brought Wayne Smith into the environment. He makes the call. Not somebody else. Nobody says, "Oh, here's Wayne, by the way." He's going to say, "Oh, yeah, if we can, let's get Wayne Smith." He's making those calls.
Right. Yeah, but no, just money on it. And as you say, Ian Foster. Now, Jordan say, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves after one game. Oh, come on, Jordan. What's the fun if we don't get too far ahead of ourselves and then we can backtrack next week? If we need
I think, to be fair, though, I think you talk to, we travel rugby circles, obviously, with what we do, and we talk to a lot of people that have been in the game for a long time. None of us have confidence in Ian Foster. There's a big groundswell of people that don't have confidence in Ian Foster. He has history going back to the Chiefs as well.
I think the real issue is, I don't believe he's done his time as a head coach. He was not successful as an individual head coach, and that is my issue. Let's not forget that. And the other issue that I've got with him, and I don't know whether he's changed his mindset, he's extremely loyal to certain players from certain provinces as well. And I hope that nepotism doesn't always enter his mind.
So that's as you say, a lot of shirt tails. One thing that we have seen through this Steve sort of Ted Hansen and now Ian Foster kind of regime has been slow starts, and the first test being an underperformance from the All Blacks. So just putting it out there, under old Blackadder, the Crusaders used to start the season slowly, but that all disappeared with Razor. Just saying.
Just saying. Just putting it up there.
Grenade in drop.
And he's
second half. I think that actually missing that penalty straight after half time was a real body blow to that Wallabies team. If they kicked that, I think they probably would have gone on and won the game, to be honest. But I think they kicked that. The All Blacks go back down the field, score a try, and look, the Wallabies did well to not lose too much, and to come back and draw it. But I thought, if they kicked that penalty after the All Blacks missed that try just before half time, a 10-point swing, and we could have seen. I think we could have seen a Wallaby victory. In that one.
I think talking about the Wallabies and their kicking, how good was Australia's kicking and their kicking for position, etc. And the All Blacks, their kicking was terrible. Honestly, in the first half, I know I've just swung back to the first half, but in the first half, the commentators said that we've got the wind at our backs, and it's like, have we? Because our kicks didn't go anywhere. And it's like the first kick of the game, Mo'unga goes and puts the ball in, and it goes out inside the 22 from a defensive position. So I thought our kicking on the night was terrible. The Australians' kicking was phenomenal, especially when they saw that we just weren't handling that high ball or those long kicks. We weren't deep for the in the first half. We were too deep when it was into the wind, and we were caught short coming forward. And in the second half, the ball was actually going over our players' head, and they were having to retreat to try and catch the ball. So the Australians were kicking really well in both halves. And I thought when it sort of got to 16 all, or not 16 all, or when it was very close, and I actually thought that the Australians, because of the wind and the way they were using it, I thought they would actually get the win.
Now, so we should actually. I've tried to do this already, and I've failed. But we should actually concentrate on the Australian team for Wallabies for 5 minutes. A player that I was a bit concerned about was James O'Connor in that 10 jersey. To me, not a natural fly half. Has done well at the Reds behind a pack that goes forwards. I was concerned how he would go with the Wallaby pack that might not give him that front football. But he had a real good game, as you say, not just kicking the ball, taking it to the line. He was happy to take it to the line, get stuck in a ruck, because then he always knew that Tamua was there for him, and he always had that release valve of ship it onto Tamua, who's a bit of a more powerful player, if he needed to. And I thought O'Connor had a good day with obviously ably supported by Nick White and Tamua around him.
Yeah, look, I sort of thought, yeah, absolutely, and especially in the first half. Steve mentioned Tupou going battering ram, and it's almost that first receiver, and that's sort of like you've got O'Connor there, and you got Tupou in the first half. You don't know who it's going to, and it gives that flexibility and that time to James O'Connor, because you're defensively lining up to make sure you stop Tupou, aren't you? And so that gives him more time. And at the end of the day, I think it comes back to coaching, because I think the fact is that they had a game plan and they stuck to the game plan. So it's making your team stick to the game plan, and they were executing it, so they got confidence out of that.
And yes, and one of the key stats for me in this game was turnovers. 20 conceded by the All Blacks, 12 by Australia. And I think quite a few of those were in that last 3 minutes, to be honest, or after time was up by Australia, because they seemed to turn it over in their own 22 a few times. So they were probably only about 8 turnovers for the rest of the game, which meant that, look, they were retaining possession well. They could go through phases. They might not be making sort of many clean breaks and things. I think probably their best clean breaks came off first phase move, but they could go through the phases, maintain phases, make the All Blacks make a lot of tackles. 223 attempted tackles by the All Blacks in this game, which is a stack. That ball retention. An area that they did struggle on, though, was the set piece. A couple of lineouts lost really hurt them in this game as well. One on their own line, one I think on the All Blacks line as well. So it's a game that I think the Wallabies definitely go away from this one going, we should have won that. To my mind,
Paul, I think we should. Paul, I was going to say we shouldn't forget as well. They had 4 debutants in that side as well. We mentioned Harry Wilson before, but we also had Hunter Paisami as well out there. Dungunu, who was also out there. I don't know if Tom Banks has played for the Wallabies before, but Tom Banks looks safe as houses at the back, and he's got a good boot as well. So, they've got the makings of a very good team. We know the strike power that they've got finishing ability, and I'm really super excited for them when Jordan Petaia, if he is fit, because I think he's one guy who can step in there. But I think you are right. They do just have a one-trick pony in James O'Connor, because after O'Connor, I suppose you'd almost be looking to maybe put somebody like Reece Hodge into first 5 if somebody goes down with an injury.
Lolly Asio, the rookie,
yeah,
on the bench, who didn't get on the pitch. You're talking then about him or Harrison from the Waratahs. So 2 very young, only first season at Super Rugby really level players. So 2 very, very rookies after him. You do want him to definitely stay fit, because they're definitely thin in places. But in other players, they've got a couple of players that can come in, as you mentioned there. I've just gone blank. The Reds outside centre, come winger, to come in as well.
Jordan Petaia.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Steve, where would you put him if let's say next week he's all fit and 100% to go? Where would you put him?
Actually, I just forgot. They've also got the option of pushing Matt Tamua, who can step into first 5 as well. So that's not an option. Yeah, I'd be tempted to give him a run ahead of Paisami, even though Paisami was very
pretty good today.
Although, he was pretty good today. So it'd probably be hard to drop him, but we all know he has got genuine quality. A guy in their pack who really impressed me was Lukan Salakai Loto. He just carries the ball so well, and there were a couple of times I actually thought he actually manhandled a couple of the All Black forwards. He's one tough cookie, and he's developing nicely. And that combination of Philip and of course Salakai Loto, they look like they could end up forming a really, really good partnership in the Wallaby team.
Yep. Now, the other big talking point about this before we get on to the Mitre 10 Cup games is that last sort of 5 or 6 minutes where neither side managed to pull off a drop goal. The Wallabies didn't even put anyone in the pocket. The moment that Richard Mwanga looked to drop back a bit, we ended up heading into turnover city, and we never got back into that pocket again. But yeah, guys, okay, swirly conditions, but even so, you've got to give it a crack, haven't you?
Well, I mean, I was absolutely shocked. Both sides, as you said, both sides. Not just, I can't remember who it was, whether it was Jordan or Nocturnal, that made the comments about no drop kick, right? And it's like, or Project, it's just like both sides had opportunities to take drop kicks. The All Blacks, just before TJ threw the ball at Carl's head, right in front of the sticks, they probably had the best opportunity. But one thing, just talking about Richie Mo'unga, was I was scratching my head because we had TJ at the back of the ruck and Mo'unga was sort of like within a metre of him. And it's like, what are you doing? I mean, surely you want to get into a position to either receive the ball to spread it or drop back in the pocket. He wasn't doing either. He was standing next to TJ. It wasn't like he needed to go protect the ball because the forwards had actually done that. And he was wandering around the back of a ruck. So, And then TJ goes and throws the ball at Carl's head.
I don't know, you know, in those frantic minutes, everything has to be accurate. You know, the passes have got to, it's got to hit the player on between the chest and the gut. As far as I'm concerned, anything higher than the chest where the player has to reach up, you're asking them far too much, especially, dare I say it, one of the props.
If he had caught the ball, there would have been someone driving into his ribs, right? Because his arms are up. He's totally exposed. He was going to get cleaned up if he'd even caught the ball. He wasn't going to go forward. Put it that way.
Yeah, and I think there's I think there's probably a good reason as to why Richie Mo'unga hasn't been first choice in this side earlier. I mean, we're seeing now is that composure at the end there wasn't there, as you say, Ashwin, and that's probably what Steve Hansen was seeing and why he didn't, and why it took Richie Mo'unga a couple of years to actually get into the squad. Never mind actually into the team itself. So
why don't teams take penalties though? We didn't address that really. Teams, there's a real head scratcher. Fans are going take the drop kick, but teams won't take the drop kick unless you're England.
Yep, or South Africa.
South Africa. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, they should have done. Don't know why. Something they haven't. As one of the 2003 English sayings, teacup, thinking clearly under pressure, and you do that because you run through the scenario and you know what to do. You don't have to think on the hoof. And probably these sides just haven't come up with what's our game plan if we're drawing or 1 point behind and in their 22 with time up. They're just not running through that scenario. Otherwise, they would be in a clearer situation.
The irony of the situation. I don't like golden point extra time. Okay, I don't like it. But the irony of the situation, if we had it for today's game, what would they be doing in that extra time? They'd be taking drop kicks. But with a minute to go in a game, you can't take a drop kick that would avoid the extra time.
Yes, but thankfully we weren't talking about kissing our sisters at the end, and that wasn't part of the.
You just did.
I did. They didn't. I'm an only child. I've not got a sister, so I can't tell you what it really feels like. But I don't know if you guys have got sisters or not. But perhaps we shouldn't go there. Yeah, I think that's probably wraps up the Bledisloe. We will be back tomorrow evening. I'm sure we'll be looking forward with the Driving More show, and I'm sure we'll look forward to the next game at Eden Park and talk about it then. But Stephen, one more point.
Yeah, just one more point. Just on the official. Obviously, it was unusual to see a New Zealander refereeing a New Zealand game that the All Blacks are involved with. But I thought in the main, Paul Williams had a pretty good game. I mean, just a couple of people questioning a couple of things on the social network, but I thought in the main, I thought he had a pretty good game.
And the biggest blue of the game, which was the foot on the line, if it was a foot on the line, was Angus Gardner, not Paul Williams.
Let's be blunt here, folks. The reason we haven't got a neutral ref is because of COVID and quarantining, all that kind of stuff, and also the fact that all the other countries are playing rugby at the moment. All their refs are busy. Simple. So that's why we've got it. It's a COVID thing. It's not some conspiracy. We shouldn't have a Kiwi refereeing at Bledisloe. Look, we've got an Aussie next week because that's the referees that are available. All the other ones are busy at home, and they'd end up having to take 2 weeks off to come here and 2 weeks off when they go home again. And with the amount of rugby that's on at the moment, we can't afford referees being sat in isolation doing that, put bluntly. So, Mitre 10 Cup then, boys. Join us tomorrow evening for the Driving More show. We'll perhaps have a quick, we'll put in that one discuss who should have been kicking, whether it should have been Geordie Barrett or not, and also look forward to the Eden Park game. Mitre 10 then, Friday night, Manawatu versus Canterbury. Manawatu dominating the first half, but down at half time, and then Canterbury doing their thing and basically taking the game away in the second half. Manawatu unable to take advantage of their of when they dominated, unfortunately.
Yeah, you got it in one, Paul. They dominated a lot of that early field territory. They actually got in behind Canterbury. But when you're playing a team like Canterbury, you've just got to take your chances. And unfortunately for the Turbos, they just didn't take those chances. And I think during that period, I think the Canterbury team only had a few chances, and they nailed all of them in the first half. They can break out and hit you from anywhere.
Yeah, Canterbury, not the side that they have been the last couple of years, but still way too good for a team that hasn't won yet this season. Taranaki Auckland, I'll be honest, I haven't seen this one, but 28-29, a 1-point victory. I did not see this coming. Either of you guys see it?
Yep. Steve, you want to go?
Yeah, interesting game. I mean, so Auckland started like they were half asleep. To be brutally honest, a couple of contentious refereeing calls in that game as well. But before you sort of looked at the scoreboard, Auckland were behind by must have been a good 20 odd points or something like that before they actually.
It's about 23-5.
23-5, I think it was, before they really got going.
Yeah, wow. and it is like you have to say there was. I mean, like Auckland were there at the end of the day. Auckland were their own worst enemy. They were quite sort of like when they could control the ball, they were actually showing to be the dominant team. But they just made stupid errors, and they're not helped by some really dubious calls being made by the officiating trio. Well, actually, not just the trio, because I'll come to. I was made a comment before in the Bledisloe about it's just like about the TMO. There's a clear hand to the face where actually a finger gets in the eye of, I think it was Blake Gibson from Ben May. We see it straight away from the couch. The commentators say, "Oh yeah, it's not Ricky Telly. It's actually Ben May that comes across the top." And the three officials go, "Oh no, Ricky Telly didn't do anything." Yeah, it's obviously everybody knows Ricky Telly didn't do anything. Ben May comes over the top with a closed fist to the face, which had the thumb sticking out. If you zoom it in, you'd probably be able to see it. And it's just like, end of the day, it doesn't matter with the thumb sticking out or not. It's direct contact with the fist to the face. It's like, what could they not see? And it's just like amazing. As I said, the commentators saw the same thing that we saw live in the game. And it's just like the fact that the officials could not get that right was just shocking. And it's just like it sort of summed up some of the officiating in the game.
Well, yeah, shame that we couldn't do that one. We got the association not living up to the level. Unfortunately, again, our top referees are away with Bledisloe Cup, and so we're going to have there's going to be some new guys.
Oh no, but see, that's the thing, Paul. I can't I can't take that as an excuse, because it's in a TMO looking at replays, not a guy following the game live. It's the guy with the same pictures in front of him watching it again, not live, that we're watching was just seen. So that's just poor officiating that needs to be addressed.
Okay. So I've not seen it. So anyway, moving on then, Harbour versus Hawke's Bay. Harbour, two fantastic results now. Beat Tasman last weekend. They've really got their tackle and rucking technique down. Something that Sam Ward talks to me about pre-season as being an area of focus for them. It's clicked. They denied Tasman the ball. And Stephen, you were there. I believe they did it all over again against Hawke's Bay.
Yeah. Sam Ward reiterated those points, Paul. They were brutal at breakdown, and they never let Hawke's Bay get into any sort of rhythm at all. In fact, the early exchanges were dominated by the Hawke's Bay Magpies. I just felt, though, there was not a lot of variety in the Magpies' attack. And listen, they just picked off any opportunity that any loose ball that they left on the floor. There was a couple of there was a high kick which that Hawke's Bay didn't look after. Jared Page latched onto that, and then I think he'd scored a second try before halftime as well from an intercept. Showed some really good pace as well to score that try. And I think also Dylan Hunt nailed a try from close range. That made the score 22 points to 10. Hawke's Bay's only try coming from Marino Michaeli too, who scored from a drive close range. But no, all Harbour just too good. They dominated at scrum, at set piece line out. They also put a bit of pressure on Hawke's Bay. Far too good all around. good for the Harbour supporters that got out to watch that game. And of course, as you know, they've had a long-term sponsor in QBE Insurance, who basically paid out $2,000 for every North Harbour try that was scored, and there were 7 tries scored, but I believe they kept it at $10,000, and that was for the orange shirts for World Homeless Day. So yeah, it was a good day all round.
That's awesome.
Yep. Obviously, yeah, Shield hangover. Maybe to me, I think perhaps more Hawke's Bay really more Harbour being really on their game at the moment. It'll be interesting to see how Hawke's
Bit of
Bay
squad
go.
rotation as well. Was there, Steve, or it was just a couple of players?
Yeah, a little bit of that. A couple of experienced front. I think Elliot Dixon, not Elliot Dixon.
Ash Dixon.
Ash Dixon didn't make the trip north, and we all know what a big part of that team he is. I think McClutchy and Whakatava, the starting halves, were both on the bench. But unfortunately for Hawke's Bay, I think the damage was well and truly done by then. I thought one area where I thought Hawke's Bay were pretty poor were in the midfield with Sapsford and also Sam Nicol, who returned from a long-term injury. So they really struggled in that area. Usually they have Danny Tuala and Stacey Ely. Stacey Ely especially has got great footwork and just gives them something a little bit different in that midfield. But poor all round. I think Kurt Baker at the back looked a little disinterested, to say I'm sure he wasn't disinterested, but yeah, didn't have a memorable game is what I'm trying to say.
See, he wasn't going to be allowed to take his kit off at the end of the game, which was going to be and pose for a photo on someone's shoulders. So hence he wasn't interested. Moving on then, high scoring game between Wellington and Otago, 34-35. Another one I've missed, unfortunately, because I was over at Waikato at the game.
Good game.
Did any of you guys see it?
Yeah. I sort of thought, I think if Otago had lost that one, they would have been kicking themselves, because really they only, Wellington sort of got into positions of opportunity or got their points really off the back of mistakes by Otago trying to do exit plays a couple of times. So that sort of kept it close. But Otago looked dangerous every time they had the ball. I think, Steve, you see the game as well?
Yes, I did. Very, very good game, and a couple of really good long-range tries as well. One off a guy who's much maligned, Michael Collins. He's doing a good job leading this Otago side. Made a break from inside his own 22, and they finished it about 80-odd metres later, so that was probably the try of the match. But I think the other area where they got on top of Wellington at the end was at scrum time, which was a little bit of a surprise. I mean, to say Wellington have been really good, and I've got to say probably one of the quieter games I've seen from Duplessis Kirifi. Who's normally in the absolute thick of the action. I mean to say they just weren't on their game. He even had the likes of Wes Hooson, who's normally safe on the tackle, missing a couple of tackles, but it was a very well deserved win to Otago. And I think their forward pack, their loose forwards, especially guys like Dylan Nell, set the platform for the win. He was very good. So good bounce back from Otago, given that they were beaten a week ago by Hawke's Bay.
Yeah, absolutely. They're sort of like bounced back after that Shield loss quite well. And just alluding to that Michael Collins play, it's just like, an inexperienced player would have tried to thread the needle to the man outside, wouldn't he? As opposed to being calm and composed and just putting that little grubber through for the flanker to latch onto, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was a
great play.
It was good heads up play, as they say.
Yep.
So good and well deserved victory to Otago. And I also put a tweet out there for I'll probably put the mocker on him on Angus Gardner. It was a fantastic performance, but once again you saw it with Paul Williams today. I think that communication when officials are out there is everything, and I think if you're communicating positives with the players as well, I think the players gain that trust and know what they can and can't do. Where the official for the next game we're about to get to, Paul, the Waikato counties game,
Oh, yeah. So Waikato Counties game, and I'll tell you, within the media box, there wasn't much love for the referee even before he'd stepped on the pitch. In all honesty, he's got a bit of history with the Waikato side. Look, counties kept themselves in this when it was 15 against 15, but look, we basically lost about 10 minutes, the last 10 minutes of the first half due to scrums and lineouts in the counties 22, and eventually that ended up with a yellow card for counties. It probably should have come earlier, in all honesty. Somehow he managed to come up with a penalty try from that, which, okay, fine. There was definitely some calls for that in the media box, but in all honesty, you can't give penalty tries for just repeat infringement, and that's what it looked like in the end, because it wasn't. Yeah, there was nothing different in that penalty than there had been in other penalties, and it was not a definite try. So anyway, he gave a penalty try. 17 points was scored by Waikato during that 10 minutes of yellow card either side of half time, and the game was essentially gone. It's not quite what was said by the head coaches afterwards, but hey, what do they know? I'm the guy that watches all these games and tells you what's happened. So, yeah, basically, counties competitive when they had 15 players on the pitch, not when they had 14, and Waikato made them pay. Essentially,
what's the actual protocol? What's the actual protocol on yellow cards? Because my understanding was that if you give a yellow card in that sort of situation, I'm sorry, not a yellow card, sorry, penalty try. Sorry, when you give a penalty try, it has to be accompanied by a yellow card. But so many times we're seeing penalty tries that don't get accompanied by yellow cards.
Well, this one did. I mean, but the yellow card
was prior. It was prior. So he gives the yellow card first, and then he gives the penalty try afterwards. And I thought, I mean, I could be wrong on this. My understanding was that they'd introduced the rule, whatever you want to call it, is the fact is that if a penalty try is given, a yellow card must accompany it.
I think Ashwin was one of those things where he actually gave the penalty try against the team. There was no one mitigating player that either collapsed the scrum. The reality is the scrum was under pressure. It was going back at a rate of knots, and collectively he gave it against the whole team. But it'd kind of be weird if he gave
yellow card for the whole team.
Yellow card for the whole side. Just touching on that game though, it's good to see Luke Jacobson and his brother. They were in hot form in that game, and I thought they were a big difference at breakdown when Counties Manukau were trying to get back into that game.
But it's interesting. Otago didn't have recognised 7. Neither did Waikato. They had 4 recognised 6s, no recognised 8, no recognised 7, and only 1 recognised lock. But hey, it worked for them.
It's good to
I just want to say,
that, Paul.
I got to recognise that.
It's good to know you
unprecedented. I just want to say, so just with counties and just harking back to Manawatu, 2 teams that actually do create scoring opportunities, but really don't take advantage of the scoring opportunities that they create. You know, and it really comes back to hurt them, because it'd be something that would be really hard to keep your head up when you're bashing away, you're creating in the last minute pass or a little knock on or something, and the next minute the opposition's gone and scored down the other end. So I think if they can take advantage of some of the opportunities that they create, they're going to be in the game a bit more and give themselves a better shot.
Just on the official, obviously we're talking about Brendan Pickerel. Now he had the opportunity to, when they were packing down all that scrums, to actually blow his whistle and stop time, and we saw an example of that in one of the games today that we'll get to a little bit later. But I just thought he missed the boat a little bit at that time, and I thought there was a lot of time put in with set scrums. I can remember Waikato being on attack almost, I think it was about the 30th minute, 31st minute, and they got that penalty try, Paul, what was it, almost right on half time? On
half time, the hooter had gone. We literally had 10 minutes of scrums and lineouts in that 22. The ball didn't go more than 10 meters out away from the county's line, because it was either a scrum, a penalty, we'll kick the corner, we'll do a maul, another penalty, we'll choose the scrum, and then and it just, as you say, it was just scrum after scrum, and it was just I nearly lost the will to live.
And once I'm glad you're still with us, Paul.
Wayne.
That's what I mean. You talk about those messages, those real positive messages that you're getting from the officials. Most of the messages I was hearing from Pickerel were negative messages, and I I think there comes a time where the players almost switch off. He's not going to do anything about it, so we'll keep doing the same thing. There was a bit of that. But listen, at the end of the day, a deserved win to Waikato, and they pick up the 5 points.
Yep. So after that, we had Tasman versus Bay of Plenty in this one. Aaron, it does not sound like English rugby, so please, dearie me, sir, dearie me. Oh,
sounds like English rugby, eh, Steve?
Tasman versus Bay of Plenty, and another one of these stories where Bay of Plenty, lots of territory, particularly in the second half, in the first half. Should have got points on the board, but they didn't. Tasman playing into that wind in that first half, which obviously gave Bay of plenty of territory. Make mistakes, off go Tasman down the other end and score. Some really aggressive defence by Tasman, and some missed tackles by Bay of Plenty. So this game was actually won and lost on defence rather than really on the attack, being that much difference. Happy birthday, Lester Fionauku, 2 tries. So congratulations to him. I'm sure he'll be having some nice cake this evening. And Stephen, I think you forgot to mention him this morning.
I probably did, because I probably mentioned happy birthday to other people. I was just going to say on Tasman though, that's no surprise. They would have been really grumpy after getting tickled up by Harbour last. When was that? When did that happen? Last Sunday.
Last weekend. Yeah.
So they you just had a funny feeling that Bay of Plenty were going to feel the backlash, and unfortunately for Bay of Plenty, they are now well and truly in the gun of the team that's probably most likely to head back down to the championship, and when we're almost at the halfway stage of the Mitre 10 Cup pool. So
we are. This is week 5, so halfway through, and Harbour have hit their straps. It was looking like Harbour was going to be the side to go down, but with them hitting their straps, boy, yeah, Bay of Plenty are in trouble. Just one question for you boys: when's the last time you've seen a pushover try against the head? The defending team put the ball in, the opposition drive over and win the ball. They get a tight head and then drive over and score a try. So we had one of those in this game. I've never seen one of those before. So that was the first for me.
Probably when Zinni did it.
Yeah, that'll be right.
There was another game on at the same time as that one, which was Northland versus Southland. 18.
Did you see that, Steve?
Yeah, I was flicking between both of those games, and Scotty Donaldson makes a really good point that the Taniwha defence was good, and they took their chances while Southland, slight underdog, should have won, and that's a really good assessment. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. I think from a Northern piece, I think the things that they can be quite positive about is their defence and the ticker that they showed to get across the line. But in terms of the negatives, there's going to have to be a lot of practice when it comes to field exits during the week before they hit the road to Napier on this Friday night, because they were very, very poor in that area. They played very little rugby. In fact, Southland played most of the rugby in this game, and will probably look back and think that they missed a real opportunity to get a win on the road. And had they won, it would have been well deserved. But full credit to the Taniwha and especially their hard-working loose forward Tom Robinson, who picked up the man of the match in this game. Was just very aggressive at breakdown. I know that there's an article that's in stuff, Dale McLeod having a crack at his team just for really not being aggressive enough and taking the ball by the horns, because he'd be totally frustrated. They've been in 2 situations, their game against Waikato last weekend and now this game, 2 real opportunities to get across the line, and they've missed the boat.
Yeah, interesting that they've scored a losing bonus point in all of their games that they haven't won this season. So they've been there or thereabouts in every game, which is not something that we could say of the team last year or from the last couple of years. So it's been a massive step forward for them. But as you say, that's they're still angry about it, and that's a good thing to see when they're getting close in these games and being angry that they haven't managed to go one step further. If they were happy with that, then you'd be worried about whether they'd be able to push on and improve again.
Yeah, Paul, I was going to say their skipper too, Tony Lambert, is absolutely inspirational to that particular side. He picks them up, and they have a couple of good young guys coming on nicely. Brother of Solomon Alamalo, or Charles Alamalo, looks like he's developing very, very nicely. But there was a loss during the game. Hopefully the injury isn't too bad to Selby, Manaki Selby Rickett, who came off with a knee injury during the game. I noticed he had an ice pack, so that was a heck of a loss. And I thought Ray New and Ray New and Isaac Tatamaki, look, they're a real threat in the midfield. As Paul brings up the table there, you can see Northern with that win today, sitting top of the table.
When's the last time that happened, Steve?
4 wins. Yeah, it was a long ago, but it's probably only till Friday night because they take on the team that's sitting right behind them in Hawke's Bay. And of course, if you look at our Mitre 10 Cup table, Tasman, they've bounced back well, but Auckland's still in the reckoning after that win against Taranaki, and Waikato sit comfortably, and we're halfway through. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. And of course, Bay of Plenty only on 7 points are in trouble.
The thing for Auckland is that they've now basically got the hard road to the end of the competition. Basically, all their games, majority of their games against Premiership teams now. And as we can see, I think when you look at that Premiership table, it's actually quite a bit of a logjam. There's not, when you look at Wellington on 15 and Tasman on 20, you're only looking at one game between the top place team and the fifth place team, and Harbour's starting, as Paul just mentioned, starting to hit their straps. So that's going to be a pretty tight competition, I think, by the end of by the time we get. Are we having playoffs this year?
Yes, we are. So we got.
So by the time we get to that, semi. Yeah.
So semi-finals and final, just like every other, just like normal years, assuming that nothing changes around our levels and all of that kind of stuff, obviously. As you say, very tight in that top one there. I mean, we're even talking about sixth place potentially climbing into those playoffs at this point. They're 6 points off fourth place. So look, it's within their grasp if results go their way. In the championship, again, very close, as you say. Northern 3 points ahead of Hawke's Bay and Otago, who are 4 points ahead of Southland, who are just 1 point ahead of Taranaki counties, and Manawatu a bit adrift at the bottom there. But look, playing some good rugby, just not finishing it off. And the scorelines looking worse than perhaps the results than the games really were. Quickly covering off on the Farah Palmer Cup then. 3 games this weekend as the South Division had a bye. Harbour beat Waikato. Harbour lost to Waikato 0-62. We already know that essentially Harbour and Taranaki are going to lose all of their games in that North Division, apart from the game they played against each other, which Harbour beat Taranaki. The other way around. Taranaki beat.
I was going to say, I thought it was Taranaki won. Yeah.
So that's unsurprising there with that win for Waikato. Counties versus Bay of Plenty. This was a really good game by all accounts. Finished 17-10, and that winning score was late on as well. Could really have gone either way. That one between Counties and Bay of Plenty. Counties, who I think we thought were going to be kind of leading the way, have really been pegged back by some of the other teams, and not being the dominant force we were expecting. So, really interesting. That's there. And then
basically,
sorry.
I was just going to say, basically, since they lost their prop, whose name I'm not going to remember, they seem to have lost all their power. Well, not all their power, but they've not been playing that dominant game that they have.
Oh yes, that's true. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, she was. She'd got injured in that game I was up there for. You're right. Yes, very powerful scrummager, very powerful player. She always gets over the game line. I know who you mean now. And having that kind of presence, who you can always just ship it to, and will give you that front foot ball and get you out of trouble, makes a big difference to a side. there. Then the final game of the round, Northland beating Taranaki 77-3, including a rather impressive prop scoring a try as well. Stephen, I don't know if you've seen that one.
No, I can't say I've seen that try, but what I do know is Portia Woodman touchdown for a record 6 tries in the Farah Palmer Cup. That's not been seen before, but I'm assuming you're talking about Crystal Murray scoring an impressive try.
I am. Crystal Murray scoring for it. So the ball goes out. It goes to the hooker, who uses quick hands to give to Crystal, who is a good sort of 30, 40 meters out. She hits the gap at pace, then steps round the fullback who comes up to try and tackle her, and over she goes to score. So yes, some impressive work by Crystal Murray, the ex-league player who is now playing prop and also who kicks goals as well. So yes, the whole package there with Crystal.
The full skill set, Paul. And
full skill set.
That result. Well, originally couple of weeks ago, we thought they would be the kingmakers in this competition, but now they've actually got their fate in their own hands. They take on Bay of Plenty Volcanics this Saturday. So really, really big games. I forgot to also mention in the Mitre 10 Cup coming up this weekend, 2 real big games. North Harbour play Wellington in Wellington. I'm going to tip North Harbour. That's a big game. And Auckland play Tasman at Eden Park. Another big game. So
with a crowd.
With a crowd. So 3 massive games coming up this weekend.
And obviously, also the Ranfurly Shield challenge between Hawke's Bay and Northland, and we will have our own. We'll be covering that game as Stephen gets down there to cover that game for us. We better quickly jinx it. Media pass, so you can do us some interviews. Also, but you've got to remember that in the Farah Palmer Cup, it's only the top 2 that go through to the finals from each pool. So we'll have to see if Northland's still 5 points behind Auckland Storm in that one. They're going to need Auckland Storm to slip up if they're going to make it in that one. And I think we've just got 1 round of games to go. So Auckland versus Waikato is the final game. Yes, if Waikato tip up Auckland, then Northland could get into. Is that right? Yes, then Northland could Northland or counties could get themselves into the playoffs there. Canterbury already in, and it's down to Manawatu or Wellington to get that final place. With Manawatu playing Hawke's Bay, look, they're odds on to get that second place down there in the southern pool. Cool. I guess next weekend is also the final of the Gallagher Premiership, folks. Exeter versus Bristol, I think it is, in that one. I'll just quickly check that I've got that right. And we've also got the next weekend, is the European Champions Cup and European Challenge Cup finals. Exton versus Racing, and Bristol versus somebody or other. Toulon in that. So it's funny that we're getting finals time up in Europe at the same time as we have finals time down here in New Zealand. So perhaps we have got that global calendar that we've all been asking for so long, in a weird kind of way, or not. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me this evening. So we're back tomorrow night with the Driving Mall show. It'll be the final week time that we'll have it on a Monday night, because from next week, a week on Monday, we'll be having Swinging from the Hip. We'll move to a Monday evening, folks, and we'll shuffle around when the Driving Mall show will be. Tuesday evening, we will have the basketball show, probably the last one, as the NBA finals will come to a conclusion over the next couple of days, most likely. And then obviously the standoff show on Wednesday evening as well. So Thank you. Oh, go on, Stephen.
There you go. I just thought I'd almost going to say it was remiss of us to remember that Michael Hooper played 100 tests for Australia today. So congratulations to the number 7. That's no mean feat. 100 tests, Michael Hooper. Congrats.
Absolutely, congrats. I did have that in my notes and forgot to say it. So there we go. So we'll be talking tomorrow night about things like should Geordie have been kicking, with Richard Mwanga and Damon McKenzie on the pitch. I'm sure that there will be other things that we'll talk about, perhaps previewing obviously the Bledisloe Cup, previewing maybe the Round Philly Shield game as well, since Stephen is heading down there. And have a wonderful Sunday evening, folks. Hope you've all had a great and fantastic weekend. Thank you, Ashwin. Thank you, Stephen.